Welcome back in. When you think of gambling, you don't generally think about teens being the ones doing it, but new data shows that is not the case. That's also why a new statewide initiative is raising awareness. This afternoon, we have Steve and Megan with us from the Zepf Center to explain. Steve, first of all, my observations, you can't get away from gambling now. Sports gambling is everywhere. It's on ESPN. That's all they talk about. DraftKings advertises everywhere. It's not just the casino. It's sports gambling is incredible. Since it was legalized, it's exploded. I would think that's a real problem for people who might be tending toward that direction.
Well, and you're exactly right. And what happens is as each different iteration of gambling happens, more people, nobody leaves anything behind. They add one more thing to the level of gambling they do. And as they do, the amount of resources expended on gambling increase, and just everybody takes one step closer to that financial cliff of over exceeding what would be recreational gambling. And the really interesting thing is, we are grooming generations of young kids to gamble, and this starts as young teenagers or even earlier in video games in the form of loot boxes and skins and those types of things. And we've probably all seen young people who are so embedded in the game that you cannot rip them away for dinner or bedtime or schoolwork. And so Change the Game Ohio, which is a new website that Ohio MAS, the Casino Control Commission, and the Ohio Lottery have put together with the leadership of Governor DeWine, is trying to address youth gambling. And because the problem with kids is they tend to grow up. And then they become young adults, and then you're exactly right, then comes the sports betting, then comes, the 21 years old, and now you're able to engage in all these legal forms of gambling, and then not to mention the illegal forms of gambling.
Megan, how do you approach treating someone like that? Are children different than adults with a gambling problem and how you treat them, or is it all the same pretty much?
Oh, sure, it's definitely different. I think our main focus is meeting someone where they're at and not turning anybody away. So if someone wants help, we're going to help you get the help you want and keep meeting you with where you're at. Children, teens, young adults, adults, all different in what they're maybe wanting to do. Maybe they want to slow down their gambling, maybe they want to quit entirely. We're just focused on continuing to see them and help them with whatever that goal is.
What is it about the young brain that makes it more susceptible to addiction to gambling?
Well, it's a young brain, so it's still learning behavior in this world. And research suggests that the brain doesn't really know the difference between loot boxes in a video game and slot machines at the casino. So it's getting primed to look for that as the brain gets older, as the person gets older. Maybe it's video games, sports betting. Well, now it's the casino. Now it's the real deal, and it's real money, and it's my money. And so the brain is just more susceptible to that.
Right. It's interesting because the thing that we almost universally see is an early big win, and it can start as a kid because $10 may be a huge win to you when you're 8, but then now we have this magical way of gaining status and financial wealth, and it all looks different to everybody. But the common thread we hear all the time is that there's an early big win, and then I want to recreate that. And it's why I think you see the marketing goes towards, rich people are already rich, but poor people want to be, and they or kids even, and they see that as the means for accomplishing the goal. And again, that's why I think org and the governor's office have really went the extra mile to support these initiatives and to help address these issues, because we know that young gamblers turn into old gamblers.
Sports gambling has been legal in Ohio now for a year and a half, am I correct in that?
Yep.
You've been around for a little bit in the Zepf program. Have you seen it skyrocket, the cases? Give me an idea how things were before sports gambling was out in the open and where it is now.
We were not seeing many sports gamblers before sports betting was legalized. Being in Toledo, we are close to the border, so some people would go up to Michigan
Sure.
to sports bet. But since legalization, I'd say 9 out of 10 calls we're getting are related to sports betting, specific sports betting problems. Just within the last year and a half, it's gotten out of hand for a lot of people.
We have about 30 seconds left, but if I suspect my child is going that route and I want to get some treatment, what should I do? Calling Zepf Center or?
You're always welcome to come to zepfcenter.org. I would suggest going to changethegameohio.org for more information, and then seek out help. If it's an adult gambler, it's you would also want to go to the Ohio Problem Gambling Helpline.
Yeah, adult gambling is a whole different animal as well. No
Right.
discussion. We'll save that for another day, right?
Thank you, Dan.
Steve, Megan, thank you so much for coming down. They're both from the Zepf Center. We'll be right back.